It's a question we've been asking almost since the MeToo era began. How do we frame the offenses that played out long before? Cases like the Clinton-Lewinsky affair can be hard to navigate now more than 2 decades after it was litigated extensively before Congress and in the press. But one woman who served as a White House intern alongside Lewinsky and testified in the Starr investigation recently took on the issue. In a Boston Globe piece titled "Making Amends with Monica Lewinsky with the Hindsight of MeToo," Nicole Russo explains that at the time she was mad at Lewinsky for tarnishing the title of White House intern. But now she writes, 20 years, I feel guilt and empathy for Lewinsky, going on to say, quote, she slept with a married man and jeopardized the presidency in doing so. It's still hard to forgive, but how about that married man? Yes, how about Bill Clinton? And how about all the others whose offenses were excused in the days before Me Too? I'm joined now by Nicole Russo, who's now president of Nicole Russo Communications. Good to see you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks.
Joan Vennochi is a columnist for the Boston Globe. Hello, Joan. And Jen Deaderick is the author of She the People, an illustrated history of women's citizenship. I don't know if you know, you can pre-order it now. Are you aware of that?
I did.
Why'd you write that piece when you wrote it?
Shirley Long asked me to, and she had been following it. All of the Monica Lewinsky stories were coming out on A&E and the 20th anniversary, and it just got me thinking. And I have felt really bad in hindsight of what's going on with Me Too and everything, and it just made me reflect on how she was treated and how she is now and how she's portrayed now. And I've always wanted to say I'm sorry.
Were all the other White House interns sort of in your camp at the time?
Everyone was upset with her. Everyone.
Up with her?
Yes.
Were they upset at all with the most powerful
no
man in the
they
world?
were. Everyone sided with him that I knew, and everyone was angry at her for doing what she did and allowing it to happen.
Where were you 20 years ago in this, Joan Vennochi?
Well, I was not at the White House, but I was writing about it to some degree, and I was holding her much more responsible than I was holding Bill Clinton. And I think there is kind of something of a generational aspect to it that, like, so older women now were more judgmental of what she had done, feeling that she was responsible, that, as Hillary Clinton recently said, it was consensual. I've, come not to see it that way, and I think that Monica Lewinsky has kind of taken control of the narrative in a way that's really, really good, in a powerful way, and the Clintons haven't gotten that at all.
Speaking of what Hillary Clinton said, before we get to you, Jen, here is Hillary Clinton talking about it in an October 14 interview on CBS.
I did what I thought was right, and I feel very good about that. There was the most intense, comprehensive investigation. People forget that, and I don't. I remember it very clearly.
And in retrospect, do you think Bill should have resigned, President Clinton should have resigned in the 90s in the wake of the Monica Lewinsky scandal?
Absolutely not.
So it wasn't an abuse of power?
No.
Before you react to what she had to say, where were you 20 years ago in this thing?
Well, I'm only a few years older than Monica Lewinsky, so I had, at the time, I identified with her, I identified with Hillary Clinton, I could see, and identified with him. It seemed like it was all something that should have been kept private, and then it was dragged out by this investigation of a land deal in Arkansas, which seemed crazy.
Are any of you surprised that Hillary Clinton says what she says even after Me Too was about? It was a year in. That was a year after Harvey Weinstein. You surprised by that?
Well, I'm not surprised. I mean, I guess I don't think Bill Clinton should have resigned. I mean, I don't know that's the question I would ask.
That wasn't the big
Hillary
one. I think the
Clinton.
abuse that it was.
Was it an abuse of power?
Yeah.
Yes, it was an abuse of power. And I think at this point, Hillary Clinton should be able to say that. I mean, this is a woman who inspired young women of all ages, and is like sort of held out to some degree as a feminist, I want to say icon, that's a strong word, but for her not to see that and admit that now, I think is a disappointment.
Although I think, to ask the wife of the guy who cheated on her with a younger woman to continuously talk about it. I mean, to expect her to answer for his actions or for Monica Lewinsky's actions are...
She could answer for staying.
She could,
yeah.
But I still feel like it places a lot on her where I don't think it's fair to place
She's
it
more
on
than a
the
wife now, though. I mean, she was a presidential candidate. She carved out her own career in politics, and again, sort of set herself out as a leader of women's issues. Right. So, I mean, I hold Bill Clinton more accountable. He should be the one that says that it acknowledges responsibility. But I do think that at this point, she should say, listen, I'm a wife. I look at it through a different prison, but yeah, it was an abuse of power. I think you can do both things.
When Joan just said we should hold Bill Clinton accountable, both of you nodded, by the
Right.
way, in agreement. I don't even know what that, I use the same language, by the way, and I have no idea what I mean
Right.
when I say it. What does it mean to hold Bill Clinton accountable? To embarrass him? I'm sure you saw Maureen Dowd's curtains for the Clintons in the New York Times where virtually nobody shows up in Toronto.
Right.
That's a happenstance holding accountable. How do you hold him accountable 20 years after? Shun him? What do you do?
I mean, I think he should have been held accountable for lying. The lying is
wasn't.
what
What do we
got
do
me.
now?
If I was him, I'd keep doing what he's doing, which is hiding and not saying a word, because he should be ashamed.
He's
and
not
he should
hiding. He's
feel
coming to
embarrassed.
Boston with her in April as part of this two-person tour that they're doing around the country.
But he was held accountable for lying. He was impeached, and he went through an impeachment process. I mean, I think that's.
I agree with you on that.
I mean, it was.
That's
it's
what
not
Hillary
like
Clinton
didn't,
says too, by the way.
I mean, it's not like he didn't suffer any consequences for
Right.
it. It's been, and it's tarnished his and it did even before MeToo. It was always the asterisks on his presidency,
Right.
and so. But I mean, I do think
That's how he's being held accountable. That's always going to be his asterisk.
Yeah, I think that's always his asterisk.
Right.
And I mean, I think, and I also want to make, I mean, I think Monica Lewinsky herself has done an amazing job of talking about this. And she herself doesn't abdicate responsibility, but it is when it's a powerful man and he's got all, and he's got the clout and he absolutely is more responsible.
But if I could just say for a second, when I hear you all say that he's been held accountable, I'm almost shocked. I mean, yes, he was impeached, obviously not convicted and removed. After that embarrassment, he's made, what, $100 million,
Right.
while Monica Lewinsky, until a couple of years ago, was ridiculed, was unemployable, could not go into public
undateable.
gatherings. So the imbalance not only existed when he did abuse his power, the imbalance has continued for virtually two decades.
She should never have been treated that badly. That goes without saying. And that's, I think
But
that
he should have been. Should he have been shunned for the last 20 years?
I don't know.
I mean, I think we're all trying to come to terms
Right.
with what is accountability, and how do you treat men who behaved badly, like Bill Clinton. I know that's a euphemism for what he did. I don't mean to
No, I
put it in
understand
that
that.
light. I mean, I kind of think
I would
it's-
argue credibly accused of raping Juanita Broderick. Forget
right, but
Monica
that's a
Lewinsky.
different.
I agree.
That's a different category. I mean, it's almost like. I hate to say it, when he dies, it will be interesting to see how this is put in context.
Yeah.
Kind of like when we just went through the George H.W. Bush
right.
funeral, where you see the presidency and the person do this gauzy film, and should George H.W. Bush be defined by Willie Horton? No, but it was something that happened in his political
Monica's
life.
going to be a big part of the narrative when he does die.
Can we come to current events for a minute? A couple of months after Harvey Weinstein, I made a huge mistake on the show and turned to you and said, do these guys have to pay? And I'm not talking about Harvey Weinstein, who should be in jail for the rest of his life, or the Les Moonveses of the world. I'm talking about people who are not in quite that category, committing, I think, serious crimes, even if they're not prosecuted. I turned to you and said, after 2 months, do they serve a life sentence? And you leaned forward and said to me, it's been 2 months, Jim. Well, it's been 14 months. Yeah. Matt Damon was ridiculed and attacked, actually, for saying there's gradation. I would argue he was right. His timing was.
Him.
I know you did. Actually, I know. I forgot to understand.
Right.
So what happens now to the non-criminal sexual misconduct perpetrators a year plus in? Is there a forum for them? Is there a reconciliation forum, an accountability? What happens?
I don't know that we know yet. I think we know that how Louis C.K. went about doing it is not how we want to see it be done. I think that there are men who have done things and have now are showing some contrition about it, or are staying back and waiting. And we'll see. I mean, I don't fully know personally how I feel about all of it.
No, I don't know how I feel.
know?
I was at a memorial for a well-known, John Martillo, a couple of weeks ago, and in the corner I saw Mark Halpern, who did some pretty horrible things, political consultant, a TV kind of guy, sort of standing off in the corner. And I'm not at all condoning the abominable behavior that. What happened?
He came to a funeral. I don't think he should be banned from going to a funeral for someone he knew. But the question is, what should happen? Should he never work in television again? Should he never get to write a book? I agree with you. I think we're all trying to grapple with that. I personally don't think that. Again, there are gradations. It depends. If someone is found guilty of a crime, that's one thing. Right. But
You have to look at the individual.
You have to look at the individual.
But guilty of a crime, I said this to Jen also and some other people a year ago, the luckiest guy in many ways in my, speaking of convicted of a crime, is somebody like Anthony Weiner who does his time and then can come out and say, I've paid my debt to society. None of these other men have the ability to say this, no matter where they are on the scale. Again, excluding the Weinsteins and the Moonvezes. What should happen? Should there eventually be a forum, a place, a something where...
What I hope is that it changes the way that men act towards women in the future, and that's what I think all of us hope.
Do you think it is?
I think it is. I do. I think it is. There's a wave now of knowing where your boundaries are and how not to overstep them. People think twice.
Quickly, do you think that...
I think I agree with that, but I think what also should happen is what happened to Monica Lewinsky, that the judgment on the woman changes, and that that person isn't the one that's shunned for having, had this happen.
Right.
I mean, that's one thing that we could have happen.
Fair enough. We got to go. Jen, it's good to see you. Thanks. Good luck with your
Thank you.
book. Joan, great to see you. Nicole, thanks.
Thank you so
Really
much.
appreciate your time. Thanks so much.